Welcome to the Lead Like a Boss podcast. Advice and inspiration from real entrepreneurs for real entrepreneurs just like you. Hey everybody, this is George K from Lead Like a Boss, and I've got another great guest for you. Someone who has done something that very few people can say has been done. Kept the business going for not 20 years, not 40 years, but over 100 years. Now, not himself, but you'll get the details. We've got another great podcast. You're going to learn a lot about how to keep a family business running. Ben Levine, Levine Brothers Plumbing. Ben, I've tried to get you in this seat now for quite a while. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
All right. So for the few folks who don't know what Ben Levine Bros Plumbing is, tell us just like the Twitter version. The Twitter size version.
Can I get up to 280 characters now?
You can go. Yeah.
We're a service-based plumbing, water heating, and natural gas company serving the greater Montreal area.
All right, cool. Anybody can go on the website and see, how many trucks you got and what you do and all the rest of that good stuff. So we're not here to talk about plumbing. I think most people understand that, although you've got some amazing anecdotes about all things plumbing, especially those videos you're doing in the hardware stores, showing people the difference in good stuff and bad stuff. So yeah, I love it. Keep up the great work as far as that's concerned.
Awesome.
But the point of this podcast is to help folks who are either in a family business, thinking about getting into a family business, and the ins and outs, the pros and the cons of that. And I'm hoping that at the end of this podcast, people who are struggling in a family business can say, hey, wait a second, this might actually work. Or, oh, that's what we were doing wrong. Maybe if we did a little bit more of this or a little bit less of that, we'll have a better experience. So that's kind of the vibe I'm looking for.
I'm in.
All right, cool. So let's get the first thing. So I said 100 years. When was Levine Brothers Plumbing started?
July 18th, 1922. So 103 years.
Holy smokes. Wow. Yeah. That's amazing. Okay. So I often ask my guests, is their family entrepreneurial? That's a stupid question. So I'll twist the question and I'll say, what were your earliest recollections of the business?
I remember being 6, 7 years old. I would go to the office with my dad. I'd go on service calls with a couple of the plumbers, one of which actually he retired last summer after 40 years with us.
Oh my.
But shout out to Nick, he taught me my tools, taught me how to adjust. I'd hand him his tools while he's fixing a toilet. Earliest, that really is the earliest. Then coming into the warehouse, I'd work in the warehouse, I'd clean fittings, sort, as much as young as I could, spring breaks, winter breaks, summers around camp. I was in the office getting dirty.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Cool. So, a lot of families, will say, okay, I want my kids to not work as hard as I did. I want my kids to go to school, get an Ivy League education, and, become a doctor, a lawyer, whatever. Did you face any of that as you were growing up?
So something that I didn't realize how lucky I was, but the more people I speak to, especially in family businesses, my dad said to me, whatever you want to do in your life, I am happy. I want you to succeed. I want you to be happy in what you do, whether it's in Levine Brothers or not, that's on you. But if you are coming into Levine Brothers, you have to get a university education. That was the line. So I didn't have as much pressure, so to speak. On the other hand, looking back, I didn't realize how much I was being groomed.
That's a good topic.
I'm my parents, my dad's only son. I'm the youngest, but I wasn't.
No pressure.
Yeah, I wasn't treated as the youngest. I was given certain extra responsibilities, especially into teenage years and all of that. But grade 11, I went to career fair. I wanted to be a physio.
Oh, wow.
So I went into health sciences at Dawson with going to be a physio. I love playing sports and with reckless abandon. So I hurt myself
You got
regularly.
banged up a lot.
Oh, yeah. I don't think we have time to go through the list. But I wanted to learn how, and on top of that, intrinsically, it's helping people, which I didn't realize how much a part of that I would be bringing forward. But it really was where I wanted to go right up until I took a business class at Dawson, and everything just like clicked.
Shout out to Dawson. It's my alma mater as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's clear that your father and your grandfather, I'm assuming, was your grandfather still around at that time?
Not in. My grandfather passed away when I was in grade 6.
Okay.
But at that point, it was my dad and my uncle who were in the business.
Okay. So I'm assuming your grandfather, your dad, your uncle, they had a plan. I mean, I get from the way you're speaking to me, it wasn't, you got to do this, you got to do that. I get that. But it's, it must have been in the back of their minds, because you use the word grooming. And, in order to groom somebody, you have to have some kind of a plan. What did they do well? What did they do well with regards to the grooming? I love the idea that your dad said, hey, you got to get a university education, because I want you to understand the world, and I want you to understand your options. That's great.
Yeah.
And also, I see the fact that they weren't afraid to let you get your hands dirty and get involved in the business. So that's amazing. What other things did they do from a grooming perspective?
My dad was always pointing things out. There are some things that you won't necessarily notice. You'll walk by a piece of paper. You could walk by it 6 times. My dad would say, I've just seen 4 people walk by it and not do anything about it. Or when we go into bathrooms, he would show me faucets that the letters or the words weren't straight. So there was always a conversation about thinking ahead. When we're driving, look 3 lights ahead of you. How are the people driving there? Are people tapping on their brakes on the highway? Well, then there's probably going to be a police there. Notice things that are going on in the horizon so you could react for it now.
Wow.
It's to a service mentality. It's a forethought mentality. It's, you might not be the reason why things are happening, but if you look far enough ahead, you could adapt and change what you're doing now to make a better outcome in the future. So although he didn't express it in those ways to me, especially at the time, I mean, the amount of time that we spend talking about things that are going on around us, analysis, just, hey, notice that. And to serve at a different level is to anticipate what can happen.
Wow.
And be ready for it. It's to have your experiences behind you and be able to bring that to a person is a service mentality. And I think the world would be a better place if people thought forward and how they could effect the change of people around them too.
It's interesting. I was listening to a podcast on my way into the studio, and it was John Maxwell, and he was talking about Stephen Covey's 7 Habits book, and how starting with the end in mind is such a fundamental thing. And we see so often entrepreneurs, really just about everybody, are so distracted by all kinds of different things. I mean, there's zillions of things to distract us. And you're telling me that your dad had the forethought to train you to look a few steps ahead and try to organize yourself in such a way that you won't get blindsided by something that's coming down the pike. So I think that's great advice for anybody.
I mean, and the details matter. Taking into how you install a faucet or how you install a drain or how, I don't know about you, and this is nothing to do with plumbing,
I
but
don't install a lot of drains, just so you know.
screws on a light switch, if they're not in the same direction, drive me nuts.
Wow.
I'm able to notice things that are not level. And sometimes I wish I didn't notice it, but
it's a blessing and a curse, right?
So the details matter so much, and other people might not notice them, but they feel them. They feel when everything's in order. They feel when you leave someone's home and everything is not just how it was, but where it should be and how it should be. It's the details also.
It's a difference between going to a 5-star hotel and everything is just so, and walking into a two-star hotel and things from like there's no cups by the coffee machine, or there's no coffee in the coffee machine, and you know, those types of things. They may seem small to the, you know, on the outside, but for the user, the experience is it makes a lot of difference. I love it. Okay, so let's go back into the business. Your uncle, your dad, were there any other partners around in the business?
Not when I came in.
Okay. So when did you actually say, okay, boom, I've got a business card, I'm in the business, I'm working in the business now?
I graduated BCom in economics in 2004. Had knee surgery right after graduation. Spent the summer at camp instead of traveling because I needed to go through physio. Day after camp, I was in the office.
Wow. What was your sport, by the way?
Ice hockey, ball hockey, softball. I played tackle football 1 year.
Oh yeah, so you figure I'll try them all.
Ultimate frisbee.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Okay, cool. I understand. All right, so what was the now? I know you were in the ecosystem of the business, weekends, you know, holidays, et cetera, et cetera. You were always around helping. I get that. What was the reaction when you sat down in the job with the people around you, like the senior people around you? For example, that plumber that you said you were following around and handing him his tools. Like, what was that emotional relationship action going on when you were, you know, the grandson, the son, the heir apparent? What was that dynamic like?
So mixed. All right.
Because that's important. I mean, we you know, people getting involved in family businesses, especially, you know, baby boomers that are thinking about transitioning their businesses to their kids. I mean, that emotional transition is a big part of the success of any business.
So at the beginning, when I wasn't necessarily taking on any managerial roles, it was, everyone was happy to see me. Everyone was happy to work with me. They saw what I was putting into it. And then slowly I was getting tested. Slowly, old generation was handing me their responsibilities that they didn't necessarily want to do. They didn't necessarily realize that I had taken on my own projects and I was working on other things to better the company, things that I had identified or my dad or uncle had asked me to take on. And now all of a sudden, they're asking me to do things that they were supposed to be doing because they didn't want to do it, and I couldn't take it on.
So you're no longer Benji, the helper kid, you know, handing tools to people.
No, I'm Ben, the manager. There was definitely a difference, especially, I mean, within a month or so of me coming in, all of a sudden I was sitting in the service department as the service manager, and I was dealing with the problems, and I was talking with the clients who were unhappy, and I was guiding the service department, even though I didn't fully understand. I mean, I didn't know how much I didn't know. And
words to live by.
Yeah. I hadn't gone to plumbing school at that point. I hadn't even been officially starting my apprenticeship yet. It was coming, but it was a rough go from a viewpoint of, I heard whispers of silver spoon.
Whose idea was it to put you in the service department?
It was where I
Did
was
you want to
needed.
go into it, or did they just say, okay, we have a spot here, go there?
There was a desk. So I started my first 2 weeks. I replaced one of the service representatives. He was on vacation. And then there was a desk right next to him on the other side. And that's where I set up shop.
It's a genius place to start. I mean, I was hinting at you saying, yeah, my uncle and my dad, they set it up because they said that's where he's going to learn a lot about the business.
Yeah, maybe they had that conversation without me in the room. It really was where the desk was. At that time, my brother-in-law had joined the year before me. And he was, when I came in, he was actually coordinating a large project.
Okay.
It was the largest project we had done.
Wow.
And he was working with the on-site foreman. They were coordinating all the logistics to it. It was really logistically heavy in a living building. So he was working on that side out of the office.
Okay.
Now I'm on the inside right up until I got my cards came through and everyone was okay with me going onto a job site.
Okay. So let's back up. Now, you're not little Benji here to help us out. You're Benji Ben the manager.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're
Yeah.
Ben the manager, and some of the older guys who knew you as little Benji come up and they're saying, "Hey, you know, can you help me do this or help me do that or do this for me or do that for me?" What advice do you have for folks who find themselves in that position to be able to kind of realign in the minds of your team that you are no longer that, you are now this?
I wish there was a magic wand at the time, and I'll tell you, a buddy of mine took over, and I'll use an analogy that didn't happen with us, but did with him. A buddy of mine came back. He was working at Microsoft, came back and took over one of his dad's businesses, bought it from him, and his dad had a meeting right away. And he said, listen, you all know my son, John. He's now your boss. He is going to be making decisions. Some you'll like, some you won't like. If you don't agree with him, then have a conversation with him. He is open to it. He will make mistakes. He'll need your help to get through them. But ultimately, they're his decisions, his company. If you see me here, I'm here to talk and work with John and help him through it. I'm not saying don't talk to me. Ask me how my family's doing, how the weekend was.
But don't come bitching to me.
Don't come complaining to me about the company. And by the way, if ultimately you don't like how the company is being run, nobody's obliged to stay. And he had that open conversation, and I believe it set my buddy John up for success.
And you're saying that didn't happen with you?
Correct. That did not happen. It was conversations behind closed doors where I had to earn the respect.
Okay.
I didn't deserve it out of the back. I needed to earn it. And I worked to earn it. When I went onto the road, I was still helping guide the service department. I was able to schedule which apprentice went with which plumber to which jobs, including myself. And I purposefully put myself in the hard positions. I took all the overnight ones. I took the heavy jobs. I took even the tight space jobs. Which,
yeah. For those who are listening and not watching this on YouTube, Ben's a big guy. So yeah, he's not the guy that's going to go in the crawl space. Let's just put it that way.
I was though, even though I shouldn't have. But there was no job. It was. Someone said the job is to something. I booked myself there first. I jumped in.
But I think I mean, let's face it, minorities, people who inherit their position for one reason or another, the way people react to those people instinctively is like, you didn't earn this. You don't deserve this. Mm-hmm. I've been here X years. I've done A, B, C, blah, 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 blah. I mean, I think that's human nature. I mean, it takes a lot to turn that off. Even if you're not exhibiting, or saying, things to that effect, people feel it. So I think it's innate that if you want your transition to go well, that yes, that conversation that you were talking about earlier, where the founder owner says, "Hey, now he's in charge, and you got to deal with him." But the backdoor conversation with the owner and the son or whomever is taking over is, if you want them to respect you, you've got to give 110%.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise, they won't. No matter what I do, if you don't do 110%, they won't respect you.
Right.
I think that
is where the earned part, and that's where they were. I'll use the word. No, they were right with that conversation, without question. I needed to get to a place that they were happy working with, and then ultimately for me.
Yeah. I remember reading about the Molsons and another multi-generational, obviously giant company, and they have a standard that says no matter, regardless of the fact you're a Molson, you're starting in the shipping department or, something like that.
Yeah.
You've got to earn your way up, at least for a while. I mean, regardless of whether you've got a Harvard education or not, you got to start at the bottom and earn the respect of your teammates before we let you up into the C-suite or wherever else you're going.
So one of the conversations that I had relatively early on, and that was after my first stint on the road, and I came back into the office after we had our purchaser had a heart attack, and he had come back, but I really had worked my way into the office and valued in the office. Like, I was definitely contributing back to the company. But I went to go see my dad, and I said, listen, I need to be on the road. I need to have that experience. I need to be able to, understand when I'm talking with the plumbers, that they understand that I understand. And at the same time, on a deeper level, yes, I know more about plumbing at that point than any client I was speaking to, but I needed to be the expert. I needed to feel it. It's one thing to know how to install a drain, but when you're on a 12-foot ladder and you have a core driller in your hand going through a block wall at its minus 40 blowing outside, you know what? You'll have just a little bit different empathy for the guys that you're assigning those jobs to, and a little bit extra leeway and better understanding. And on top of that, they'll know that you know.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is amazing. I think what we're really talking about here is we're talking about battling the concept of entitlement.
Yes.
You really just, what we're talking about here is to help people understand that when you receive a gift like a business that was built on the blood, sweat, and tears of your parents or your grandparents, that entitlement is the thing that's going to murder your business. And you gotta put things in place to prevent that from happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
Absolutely. Great point.
I mean, the thing that, I think it was Simon Sinek, book, we'll put it in the show notes. I think it's Generals Eat Last or Leaders Eat Last. Leaders Eat Last. He talks about that concept a lot. And I think that that's really important for anybody that's inheriting a business to understand. And I think that when people complain that, oh, they don't respect me or they don't listen to me, or, you really got to look at yourself. You got to look at it. It's for sure there's going to be some bad apples, and those bad apples need to be addressed. But if the majority of folks are having that attitude, then that's a sign that maybe you're not handling your stuff right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's switch gears now. So you're in the business. When you talk about how you were taking on things, you were doing things. Talk to us about how you approached or balanced this idea of like, I got to learn, I got to get my feet wet, I've got to earn their respect and I have to put my stamp, I've got to put my fingerprint on this business. Talk to us about how you were able to do that.
The biggest impact really started just as one of my mentors was a project manager. His name was Hubert. And I came off the road as an apprentice to shadow him leading up to his retirement.
Mm-hmm.
It was going to happen within a couple of years at that point. And it was interesting in that I tried to get as much from him as possible while still taking on the leadership side. It's in our company, project managers are also mentors, they're also teachers, they're trainers, they're quality assurance experts, like everything all encompassing. So I not only took on a lot of his responsibilities and his admin work, which he didn't like to do. So that's part of, I guess, earning my bones at that point, writing all his quotes. And,
fringe benefit for him.
It was about the relationships and getting people to learn who I was, what I stood for, and why not only I'm doing what we're doing, why we're doing what we're doing. So from a plumber's point of view, this is like really when I started to have a time to be managers over the plumbers. Before that, I was managers with the service, but not really affecting the plumber side of things. And at the same time, I was now talking to clients at a different level. I was selling jobs where selling for us is really like showing our value, showing the value that we have to offer them. And
it's not all about the price. That's a whole other, I know it's a whole other podcast.
Are we doing another podcast on that one? That's really when it started taking off. And it was about that time that I started posting on Facebook. But I mean, when I say started posting, I was writing out 2 posts per week with a picture explaining, going into detail as to how a hot water tank works. Like there was no ultimate plan to it, but I was putting forward that way. I saw things were coming up.
What year would that have been when you started doing that?
Oh, probably around 2008, wow. 2009, maybe.
Okay, that's amazing. That's a really early adopter kind of position. Be doing it officially as Ben Levine from Levine Brothers Plumbing, right? Not just doing it on your own. Like
it was Levine Bros Plumbing page. If you go back, I mean, those posts are still there, and
that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, this is George K. from Lead Like a Boss, and I just wanted to announce that I've got a new partner for the podcast, OnPod. You can check out the link down below in the show notes of today's episode, whether you're watching on YouTube or Spotify. OnPod is an amazing organization. They've got beautiful professional studios set up in marketplaces all over the country, and stay tuned. Look at their website for new ones coming out near you.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's I want to get into that because you do have a very active social media profile, and I know you've got there's a plan, there's a method to what you're doing. So we'll get into that in a second. If you could go back to that point, like to the point where you're taken over as more of a leader in the organization. If you could look at that, what would you change about that time?
There are conversations that I look back, wish that we had. Conversations on like the hard stuff. Like the ones that everybody avoids. Well, we were very good at avoiding them. Terms of roles, responsibilities, because it was a time that my brother-in-law, myself, and our third partner, non-familial partner, we had bought in together in 2008, but we were really coming up together as leaders, while my dad and uncle were still around, active, managing, but there were conversations I wish we had at the time around what's the future plan? What are roles and responsibilities? How do you see this moving forward? How do we separate things and putting structure in place?
What problems would that have avoided? Or do we need another 2 hours for that?
It took us years to really find our way of working, and we're still not at a place that I think our structure is where I want it to be. In terms of, so I see other companies that are much younger than ours that are able to start with the structure, but to go from an unstructured small business, because we were a really big small business. I
love that expression.
My dad and my uncle, and I always say that when I joined, the business was able to grow as much as my dad was able to work. The will was there. The hours in the day
there weren't enough of them.
Him and I used to cross in the hallways in the mornings, me on my way home and him on his way to work.
Reminds me of that Bugs Bunny episode with Ralph and Sam or whatever it is.
Morning, Ralph. Morning, Sam.
Morning, Ralph. Morning, Sam.
But I'd be coming home from a night out, and he'd be like putting back. There are times we'd have breakfast together, and I'd go to bed, and he'd go to the office, and everything was based on his. It wasn't even like an orchestra. He was part musician in the whole thing. Also, he wasn't just the maestro. So there are things that were not put in place, but it worked so well for them because my dad and my uncle have such complementary characters and skill sets, and neither one of them could have had the business thrive as it did without the other. And that's a beautiful thing.
But it's hard to communicate.
But that was never communicated. It was never structured, put into a structure. And it was never a discussion as to how we bring that forward to the next generation, the succession plan. The succession plan literally was, okay, you three are going to be taking over.
Good luck.
Okay, thanks. And then there was a meeting one day that was after my uncle had left, which is another podcast on family businesses, but it was after my uncle had left. So it was my dad and the three of us, and my dad called us into an office and he said, I'm going to Florida, but before I go, I want you to know I'm going to be naming Ben as president. Okay, that's great. It's a wonderful title. It looks good on a signature and it looks good on a business card, which I have not put it on either. But then what?
It's like mic drop. Boom.
Yeah. Okay. But what was the actual value to that? That was the part that was missing. Those conversations. What is being president entitle? What are roles and responsibility? What are things that should be done by a president and maybe not a VP of operations? What decisions should be made alone and what decisions should be made by the ownership group? And
how do you even set priorities for making those decisions? If you don't have a long-term vision, long-term plan, how do you do that?
And especially at that point, I had still been mentally working so hard to run my dad's company. And that it was, what would my dad do in this situation? How would this happen? My dad's mentality was always serve your clients well and they will tell other people, and that's how you'll grow the business. Be involved in community, and that's natural networking. Don't shout your name from the rooftop. Let other people do that for you.
Those are good principles.
They are great principles.
There's not an action plan.
Right.
I get you. Okay. Yeah. So now you are in the driver's seat. Clearly, based on your social media posting, you've got an idea, you've got a plan, you've got a vision for Levine Bros Plumbing. What is that vision? Where is Levine Brothers going now that you are in charge?
So,
I mean, as a company, I don't mean gross sales and, and territories and all. I mean, I'm not talking about that, but in terms of like the vision, like how is it going to differ from the way your dad and your uncle did things?
My dad and uncle were there, and their philosophy was so beautiful. You take care of the client from A to Z, and that'll be the value will sell itself. We are now, where we're going towards is actually working on education. My goal and our goal moving forward is educating the client as to what's available. I said before, or I talk about a lot, that sales is education. It's what do people need to know who are homeowners, building owners, building managers. What can they do to help them in the future?
Mm-hmm.
We have enough experience behind us to know what can happen. We also know what can be put in place to prevent it.
Right.
We're talking a huge project that we're working on now is about water filtration. Water quality is something that affects everybody. Last week, Concordia University came out with a study about microplastics in single-use plastic water bottles. Well, how does that affect things?
Mm-hmm.
Before, in March of 2019, the Health Canada came out and said that the safe amount of lead in people's water is reduced from 10 parts per billion to 5.
Wow.
Then Santé Quebec followed suit, and then our city came up with a proposal of investing $550 million by 2026, which, as soon as COVID hit, got put on the back burner. And other things took its place. I don't want to go into politics in this point, but now that project on the island of Montreal has been pushed till 2030. But in the meantime, there's still a significant amount of lead in the drinking water. Rains are coming like we have never seen before. The past year and a half, we've seen harder and more volume of rainfall in shorter period of time that are between 4 to 5 times the amount that our systems were designed for. When we size out a drainage system, it is for 1/4 to 1/5 of the amount of rain that fell on 4 separate occasions in the past year. People need to be educated towards that. Insurance companies.
Okay, so so I get you.
Yes.
You're talking to your dad and your uncle.
Yeah.
25 years ago, and you're talking like that. And the first thing I think that would come out of their mouths, because it certainly would have come out of the mouth of my old man, would have been like, okay, how does all of that affect, the price of tea in China? We got to, unclog toilets. We've got to install plumbing systems in buildings and in homes. Like, never mind that stuff. Get to work. Why is that stuff? Why is that education stuff? Why is that important for the future of Levine Brothers?
Because ultimately what we do comes down to expertise and trust. If we are consulting people, if we are their go-to consultants on the water quality, well, they need to install filters in their home. Who do they trust to do it?
Yeah.
When we talk about water flood prevention, who are they going to trust to do it properly, verify their backwater valves, and by the way, at the same time, unblock their toilets too?
It's funny. I had a guest on the show a while ago, Marcus Sheridan. He wrote the book, They Ask You Answer. And the point of what he was trying to convey in that is that in the modern era, everything you just finished saying, being able to be that go-to person, the person that people trust for information, and the computation that's going on in people's minds, saying, if Ben Levine is willing to put in all this time and effort and money to educate me as the consumer as to what's best for me, without me asking, without me paying for it, there's a reciprocity to that. And I think most small businesses today don't understand. I think they think of it as just marketing, or I think they think of it as well, how many leads am I going to get out of it, or what's the ROI, and all of those types of things. I think they're missing the big picture. What do you think about that?
It's something that I talk about with my guys, is that we're not called in to fix a problem. We're coming in to help someone take care of their home, take care of their families. If we go in with that mindset, then there'll be so much more that comes. It might be a sale to somebody else. And I've said this before, we don't see a service call as a sale, but an opportunity to use our expertise to help. And if we go in with that mentality, then maybe we're going in to fix a leaking faucet, but at the same time, now we're installing a water filter in their home, and we're checking their back water valves if they have, or educating them on why they should have back water valves. Oh, and by the way, those need to be inspected every year.
Yeah, I think the big takeaway here is that, I mean, the statistics are clear. People today, they make up, I can't remember the exact statistic, it's somewhere in the 70 percentile range. Consumers make up their mind before they pick up the phone. I mean, they're checking the website, they're checking the Google, they're checking the social media, they're checking the likes, they're checking the comments. People are making their decision before they pick up the phone, or before they hit the website to make an appointment, or any of those things.
Yeah.
And I think most mid-sized businesses, and certainly small-sized businesses, underestimate the power of that. When you listen to media gurus like Gary Vaynerchuk, for example, where they're talking always like give, like give as much as you possibly can, because that's what's going to make the difference between you succeeding and failing, as far as, like you said, the trust of the consumer.
Especially, it's not about a lead, it's not about a call. It really is about, hey, if you could turn your clients into your biggest fans,
yeah,
that's when things really start to get beautiful.
What blows me away? I think a lot of business owners today would rather spend like $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 on an ad campaign in a magazine, or on a radio station, or whatever, rather than take that 10, 15, 20 minutes a day and post something useful that their clients would enjoy. I don't mean enjoy from a ha-ha enjoy, but enjoy from, oh, now I've got a little bit more information to help me make a better decision on my whatever the subject happens to be.
That alone is why I started on videos on social media.
Why do you think people do that? Why do you think business owners are afraid to do that? I mean, it's not about money, because they're spending the money on other stuff.
So I came back. I had one video that posted about taking a pair of needle nose pliers to take the hair out of a bathtub. I showed people how to do it. I had one guy from my office. He's like, "How are you? You're giving away our business." And I looked at him and I said, "If we built our multi-generational business on hair in a drain and needle nose pliers, then we are doing something wrong.
We're in big trouble."
And he looked at me. He's like, "What do you?" But it's a service call. I said, "Okay." And when that drain doesn't get unblocked, or they don't want to get gross, who are they calling? Who are they trusting to look after their home? And I think that there's a fear of giving it away.
Yeah.
There's a fear. I mean,
Yeah.
I've had plumbers
yeah.
call me and thanked me for some of the tips I've been giving because they've been following. Oh, that's a good. Oh, I didn't know about that one. Oh, thanks. Okay, so I'm helping other plumbers too. Is that hurting my business?
Yeah,
No.
I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. I think that there's this fear of there's not enough, the scarcity mentality. I mean, we're 8 billion people on the planet, and you can sell something to almost anyone on this planet. I mean, literally. To me,
travel time might hurt, but I get what you're saying.
I mean,
yes.
How many businesses started off as hard products, and then evolved into soft products because they had built such a big following of clients that trusted them. I mean, the lineup, the list is endless. And once you have people's trust, then you can serve them with anything. It could be a soft product. It could be a hard product. It could be information products. It's like it's limitless.
As long as you're coming from a place of service. If you are coming from I want sales, then nobody's going to hear a word you say.
Yeah. You know what? I think that's another point. There's the giving it away, a fear that you're giving away your secret sauce and all that stuff, whatever. But I think the other thing there is you hit the nail on the head in the sense that when they come at it from a salesy kind of a way. Like, it's a commercial. It's a commercial disguised as a podcast, or it's a commercial disguised as a post, or it's everything's like a commercial.
Yeah.
I think that's another big mistake that a lot of them are making, or maybe it's what they think, and maybe that's what scares them from actually doing it because they don't want to come off salesy. Maybe.
Could be both ways. Absolutely. Yeah. Or they're also not comfortable enough to think that they could actually provide a value. And that's I know some people who are saying, well, I have nothing to give. I have nothing. I'm like, we just spent the last half an hour talking on the phone and you gave me 7 pieces of advice that not just me could benefit from it. Like, people don't always.
Okay. So we're talking about imposter syndrome.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So people think that what they know is not enough, or it's not worthy. Oh, the other thing is this. I mean, I'm sure you've gotten your fair share of people giving you messages that were less than complimentary. I mean, I think that's another big reason why people don't put themselves out there, and they're afraid of the boos. They're afraid of the negative comments. They're afraid of the criticism and the harassment, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to come.
It will. And there are definitely times when people have questioned things that I'm talking about, and you know what? They had a really good point, and they got me thinking about things different ways. So thank you for those who reached out, especially respectfully.
It's always easier.
It's so much easier to hear it. I mean, it's one thing that I take really strongly is feedback, no matter how it's given. So even if it's harshly, I still try to uncover the truths behind the emotion as to, hey, maybe I could have done something better. I'm always looking to see how to better myself, how to better the company. It's that openness also. Not everybody has that openness. Not everybody has the humility to think that there could be a better way. So if somebody says they're wrong, well, I can't be wrong. That's the other side to it.
So we talk about the B.O.S.S principle. So bravery, optimism, security, and sustainability. I mean, I hear a lot of the bravery coming out in this, because bravery isn't about being a show off or a braggart. Bravery is being willing to put yourself out there, being willing to take the slings and the arrows that are going to come your way when you put yourself out there, and doing it anyways, and learning from it.
Oh, yeah.
And I think
Thank
in
you.
terms of the example you set for your team, the team sees you putting yourself out there. The team sees you being willing to take the shots that are going to come from angry clients, disgruntled employees, past or present, whatever the case may be, your competitors, maybe your suppliers. I mean, I remember talking to Marcus when he was doing Riverside Pools. And when he was putting like the secrets of the industry out there, he was getting like really angry, intimidating calls from his competitors, saying, we're going to put you out of business. You can't do this. You're hurting the industry, da, da, dee, da, da. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that's going to happen if you're doing it right.
Yeah. That's how you know you're doing it right. Listen, if you're not getting criticism, then you're not really standing for anything.
Yeah, 100%. And people feel it.
Oh, yeah.
And I think in the era of so much noise, like so much, excuse my expression, but bullshit out there, like the signal to noise ratio on the internet is just, it's fabulous. It's you talk about needle in a haystack. It's more like, a pink grain of sand on Miami Beach. It's insane. So I think when the way people sift through that noise is that their antenna are up for the sincerity.
Yeah.
If they hear sincerity, if they hear humility, to use your term, it's a great term. When they hear that, I think that's when they tune in. All right. So now, okay, let's do some fast Q&A.
Oh, hit me.
All right.
Lightning round.
Yeah. Employee comes up to you and they're upset about something another employee did. What do you do?
I need a little more context in that. Okay.
Ben, Dave, is always late. Never comes on time, and I'm always having to cover for him. Would you talk to Dave and, tell him to get his shit together?
So first, sitting down with George, what have you done about this so far? Have you spoken to your supervisor? Have you spoken with his supervisor? There's an impact that you're having just by coming to me right now. That's, by the way, that mindset is so hard to get through. Because as an entrepreneur, try to fix everything on the spot to begin with and move on with your day. I'm so busy. I have to take care of everything right away. And there are some things that I shouldn't be taking care of to a degree. Making sure that conversations do happen. But,
teaching them how to have those conversations.
Yeah.
Right? Teaching them that it's okay to have those conversations. You said that your family had a hard time having those tough conversations. And, we know, when I say we, I mean people in the business consulting world, the coaching world.
Oh, yeah.
We know that if you don't give people the permission up front to have these types of conversations, and if you don't give them the tools, the frameworks to have those conversations are not going to happen.
Or they'll just explode.
Yeah.
And so counterproductive to what really we want in a business, because repairing that relationship after is much, much heavier than the initial problem.
Right. Okay, another one. Service department.
Yeah.
People want this. People want that. It's costing us money. We should stop doing this and we should stop doing that because it's costing us money. How do we deal with that?
So I have a office manager, a directrice de bureau, which sounds so much better in French, as most words seem to. But I'm open to the conversation. Thank you for the feedback. What do you suggest? That we just stop doing it? Or is it fall within our mission to help people look after their homes, that maybe some things don't get as much money or don't make as much money for the company? equipment that we don't have much margins on, but you know what? It's part of our helping people take care of their homes. Well, then also reframing it, because, you know, when you go to the grocery store, not everything makes the same margins for that grocery store owner, but they still need to sell Heinz and Lay's, and the same way they still need to sell the bananas and apples and mangoes and dates to us, you know?
Yeah.
It's reframing the conversation as to not just a specific service, but who are we serving? Why are we serving it? Bringing the conversation just a little bit more back. Starts with why, right?
Yeah. I think the other thing that I've seen work very successfully in organizations is when the different departments understand how they interact with one another. Like they understand that, you know, the service department and the parts department and the guys in the field and, you know, how all of those things relate to one another. You know, we know that there's a lost leader in some departments, but that lost leader brings in an overwhelming amount of revenue in another department. And I think when people see how that dynamic works in an organization, it tends to reduce their stress and their anxiety when it comes to making those decisions.
Like we have a hard time investing extra time into research. Research, finding parts, finding faucets, and our procurement specialist really had a hard time with how much time she was spending on a very low value item. And it took a little bit of reframing as to that market, that person. And by the way, now you have it. You don't need to do the research next time.
Oh boy, that's a whole other topic. I mean, getting that information in a system that other people can have access to, that's a whole other topic. And I know you work hard at that. I know you've put a lot of money and energy and effort into creating systems, ERP systems, and all that kind of stuff. I know that you work hard at that. And I think that's also a big thing that business owners need to understand. If you put the 15, 20 hours in now, and you set it up in such a way that next time it only takes 5 minutes, then you get your ROI. Yeah. But if you don't put it in the system, you're right, it is a waste of time, because if they have to repeat it over and over again, then yeah, it's a waste.
As opposed to investing. That's the difference, is people need to see it as an investment for the future. And once you shift the mindset to that, as opposed to, oh, it's costing us so much. No, we're investing now to make it better next time.
Yeah, I love it. I see your kids in your videos sometimes.
Yeah.
What's your plan for them?
So my son has expressed interest. He just turned 12 yesterday. Just started high school this month.
Is he breaking bones on the field too?
He's not yet. Okay. Although he did just fall off his horse this weekend, but that's a different story.
Cross fingers, it won't be so bad for you.
Yeah, exactly. So he's expressed interest, and I said to him, the one thing that I need from you is for you to be happy. And if this is what you want, it ain't going anywhere. We've been around 103 years. Don't worry. Don't rush. Take your time. And my 7-year-old daughter has also she's jealous because my son has come in to help, and my older daughter came in to help, and she wants to be part of the company too. And she has the attitude that maybe she'll be running the place one day. She's that amazing.
You know, it's interesting when you said that. I recently came across a podcast, and the guest caller asked, you know, what does it take to make a business that your kids would want to be a part of? And the answer was, I thought, spot on. It was, well, if your kids see you coming home, you know, from work, and you're grumpy and you're pissed off, and it's always a stress, it's always an anxiety, and they never see you. You're missing baseball games, you're missing theater recital, et cetera, it's not going to be a very good endorsement of your business. What would you say to that?
There has to be some level of honesty, but they have to actually know what goes into making a business succeed. They have to know how much of themselves or myself I put in to the company, but at the same time, they deserve a father. Like let's put the business mindset aside for a second. When I walk in the front door, they deserve a father that is there to celebrate their test win and not to take out a stress of an interaction on them. And they deserve me being on the sideline, cheering them on to make that save in soccer. And they deserve having those conversations about the kid who wasn't so nice to them that day, which is the end of the world to them in that moment. But if I'm not there, then they've lost me also. So that's something that I've learned, not easily. Over the years, there's definitely been a few cases that have come and smacked me in the face. But I would say COVID really opened my eyes the most as to how much they need me there as their father, not just there representing Levine Brothers to a degree. But the other part to it is they should see that there's a struggle to it, but it can't be beating me down.
Yeah, it can't be all the time. Yeah. Yeah, and I think everything we talked about up till now, this idea of putting systems in place, having the right people in place, giving those people the tools and the authority that they need to be able to make decisions, knowing that they're going to make decisions that are based on the principles that were handed down to you by your dad and by your uncle and by perhaps your grandfather as well, I'm assuming. When all that work is done up front, then it means when you get to the soccer game, you can relax and you know that everything at the shop is being taken care of.
In a way that I would want it to be too.
Yeah.
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 That's that.
I think, you know what? I think that's the big thing with entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs were control freaks at a certain level. And it's that, yeah, I know it's going to get handled, but will it get handled my way? And the only way that I know to do that is through education. It's like what you said before. Yeah. If they know what that way is and it's clearly documented and you test on it and you measure on it, it's going to get done. But if you just hope it's going to get done, if you just say, do it well, Ben, go out there and do it well. Yeah. I mean, that's a recipe for disaster. And no wonder people are freaked out when they get home, or they're constantly on their phone checking emails, checking this, checking text, checking WhatsApp, checking Messenger, and checking Google. Like, what do people say? What do people say?
I think that really goes in line with. I saw charts that at certain levels you have to put certain systems in place, and next, and you'll plateau and plateau. And there was exact numbers. And the one thing I'll say is I disagree on exact numbers, because it's not about the dollars being sold. It's not about revenue. It is about where you want the people in your company to be, how you want them to act on a daily basis. One of the best advices I've gotten was, I don't remember which podcast is, but as a solopreneur, if you want to grow, start tracking what you're doing and why. Write it down. Talk it through. You're not good at writing. Oh, some really spectacular AI out there to help organize your thoughts. It was somebody recommended I go on to a Zoom, record myself, and then you could have ChatGPT come out and give you an executive summary of what you just talked about.
Yep.
And organize it for you. And I think that's where the power of AI could really help smaller entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs that are having trouble letting go start. And it takes time to document. I will be the first to tell you it takes time, it takes mindset, but the only way to get it done is to start.
Yeah. I tell people it's the same thing with money. The best time to start saving, for your retirement was the minute you first made your first dollar. And the second best time is right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always the case. So yeah, I think that most people don't understand that. And I think small business people don't understand the big payoff of all that. So yeah, absolutely. Ben, listen, we got to wrap this up. This has been an amazing, I know, this has been an amazing conversation. We've covered so much. Definitely want to have you on. I say that, I think every podcast, but we really need to do more because talk more because you're a good example of what a boss leader is all about. You're putting yourself out there, as far as being brave enough to put yourself out there. You're clearly optimistic in that you're looking at a 102-year-old business and you're clearly thinking that, my kids may one day, I want to make this a business that my kids will want to, inherit in the future or be a part of in the future. So that's just unbelievable. And you're clearly thinking about, not just the physical safety of your teams in the field and in the office, but the psychological safety. If you're telling me that you want them to be okay with coming up to you and talking to you about hard things, then that's something that a generation ago people didn't do.
No,
at all.
Suck it up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So congratulations on doing that. And guys, people out there, I'm talking to you, hit Levine Brothers up on social media. Where can they find you on social media?
Facebook, Levine Bros, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and connect with me on LinkedIn.
Great. And you'll learn a lot, not only about plumbing and how to get stuff out of your, bathtub sink, but you'll learn a lot about how to run a great business. Ben, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, George.
Hey everybody, hope you got a lot of value from this show. Please like and subscribe and share this with other entrepreneurs that you know. Together, we can get the word out and help as many entrepreneurs as possible lead like a boss. Take care and see you next time.